All right, kia ora, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to the League in Order podcast. Myself, Marc Peard. Below me, Tony Kemp. Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
hey Mark, good to be back, mate.
Hi, Aysh. You good?
How you going? I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Thanks, Lavina, for playing the game. Right.
Like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. The Warriors, so close to a team that's top of the table. And for me, I wrote in our WhatsApp group, that's all I want. And I know I'm going to be told by a whole heap of rugby union fans that you don't support your team properly because if you accept a loss, then they'll always lose and they'll just go through that. But I thought they played with absolute heart and stones. That's what I want from my league team that I love. That was enough for me to say, you know what, you've justified me paying my Sky bill this week because you gave me it all, and that's all I could ask for. Go.
I like a win. I'm not going to lie. I like the 2 points. I thought the Warriors had a really good opportunity to win that game, and the Panthers had won 8 in a row, and I thought to myself, a team's got to beat them at some stage. And at halftime, I thought this is a really good opportunity for the Warriors just to display their natural rugby league and to put everything behind them and don't miss the tackles, don't drop the ball, and they're definitely in with a chance to win. I agree they played really well. It was great football. I loved the game. But I was very unsatisfied at the end not to have the 2 competition points. And I think the Warriors players would have felt exactly the same way. They put so much effort into that match, Mark, that they really needed to go home with the comp points or head back to the Gold Coast with the comp points. And it didn't happen. So I was kind of underwhelmed by the result of that game. Pleased with the performance and the effort they put in. But in the end, no golden handshake for the Warriors. So I was a little flat, mate. I was a bit flat.
Yeah. For me, I was a bit like Lavina. You know, I was happy that the boys actually ripped into the team coming first. So it was good to see. And over the last 3 weeks, we've been playing some good footy. And sort of told on the weekend, a lot of the games weren't won by the better team. They were just won on better players, a bit more class. But the boys, speaking to a couple of the boys yesterday, I know they were a bit upset that they didn't get the 2 points, but they know they're trekking in the right direction. And it was good to see Kempy put something on one of the pages on Marc Peard's post and got sprayed a bit. That was my enjoyment out of it. And I stood.
Best part of the game.
Yeah, I was happy with Kempy's
That's
thing
not
as
a
well.
spray, mate.
I was happy with Kempy's argument because I said it the other week when we got close, I think, to the Roosters, and Toddy came out and said, "Look, I gave him a spray because it's not where we want to be. We don't want to be happy with a loss." And once again, like, obviously they're playing good footy. They might have been the better team on the night, but they didn't come away with the 2 points. So not happy with their performances in a bunch, but we still need to get a win and we're close to the 8. So
I think there's 2 takes of this conversation, Mark. I think the first one is that, you know, mediocrity in accepting a performance, even though your loss is acceptable, is not where you want this club to head. You know what I mean? You want, I guarantee you, if that was Sydney City that lost by 4 points to Penrith on the night, there'd be no conversation from Robbo saying, hey, we're really happy with that effort and happy to take them that close. You know what I mean? You don't win grand finals by an effort and taking teams close. You win grand finals from wanting to win the grand final and making sure you turn every stone over. And the statistics are all against the Warriors on that game on the weekend. I think they were like 50% down on the football in the first half, and Penrith should have actually put him to sleep early. But when you look at the second half, they really didn't get out of second gear, Penrith. They always had him covered, and in that back end of the game, they didn't even bother taking a field goal because they knew they had the goods if they needed to turn it back on to put the final nail in. And I just think when you're talking class, which is the second part of this conversation that Ace is talking about, was just that lack of class in our side. You know, Kikau, Cleary, you know, he's got the young centre Crichton who I really like playing out there, and a set of forwards that are being steered around the park by the buy of the season, the Carousel hooker. Seems to me that they're going to be thereabouts at the back end of the year, Penrith. But I said it last week. I think the Warriors are on the up. I think they're really liking being in isolation together. It reminds me of the tournament philosophy that we have with the Kiwi team, where they're in camp, they're enjoying each other. I'll tell you one thing, they definitely are the fitter. and those stats on the weekend point that in that direction, that they're shitload fitter and they're hanging in there games where they shouldn't be in those games. So I agree with Ace. I think they've got a couple more wins in them, and they're not that far out of the 8. So, fingers crossed that they do kick on in this tournament style last few weeks. They're saying this week that the 8 have been sorted. They don't think anyone else is going to get in there that's outside the 8 at the moment. But, it's not over till the fat lady sings.
Yeah, I think from where I look at it, I know we aren't Sydney City. We haven't had that winning mentality. We haven't had that for so many years. And we're not the Melbourne Storm. Like, we are, as a Warriors fan base, we're used to not making the 8 now. We are. So when we do get a chance against a front runner who's red hot, and man, Cleary just had that ball on a string in the first half. How many times did he nail us behind our own line? And games
6.
gone past, 6, exactly. Games gone past, we would have been blown out by at least 30 in the first half, and we would have just hung our heads and gone. So for me, and my effort and what I want out of seeing my team play is that's all I ask. Yep, I will expect that my expectations will change once the team gets up there and starts making the 8 regularly and starts challenging these top teams more and more often. Then my expectations will change. But just as a cellar-dwelling man of the people who's used to a team that isn't performing week in, week out, that was enough for me. Like, just seeing them do what they did and survive and hang in there, for me, it was enough. I can get it.
It's interesting that Blake said, the dude on your link there gave me a bit of a spray. What I said was, it's like saying, you run a really good race behind Winks for 4 lengths. You know what I mean? Like, if you were 4 lengths behind Winks, you actually have a really good Group 1 horse. But I don't want to own the horse that ran second by 4 lengths. I want to own Winks. That was the context of the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, don't accept where you are as that's where you should be. If you've learned something out of what's happening with the effort, again, Ace has used the word effort. Imagine if you can convert that into attitude and winning games.
Yeah, but you've also got to remember though. You've got to remember that you don't own Winks right now. Winks is here, and you managed to what you do own has managed to get that close to Winks. So you can do is start improving and knowing that at some stage you're encouraged by the fact that you may actually pass Winks, but you can't look at Winks and go, well, we're not Winks, so.
So I spoke to Chanel Harris-Davida yesterday, and I asked him a couple of things about, like, I gave him a little lighthearted thing. How's Toddy going as coach? Because usually they change and turn into a bit of an angry pants and that. Kemp, well, mostly angry, but assistant coach goes into coach, But they
bad cop. I went from good cop to bad cop.
Exactly, and most of them do. And he said, mate, he's been real good. And he said he's changed a bit of the defensive structure, and all he's done is he's challenged us on effort. And if you look, you just said 6 sets on our line against the team coming first, and they didn't. I think I can't remember what they scored at the start, but we were behind the 8 ball from the start. And you look at the things that he brought up, defensive structure, and they held them on their own line, and effort. He just wants them to outplay the team. And I think on the weekend, like I said, I thought they were the better team. It's just that class that we spoke about. And it speaks volumes to Toddy as a coach and hopefully where he could go from here.
Overseas. Go overseas from here.
Well, he's going to the Cowboys, isn't he?
He's gone burgers.
He sealed that position with the latest performances. Like, he's done himself great favours by getting the Warriors boys up for. Did you speak to any of the other boys? How's Roger going? Because just after the end of our last podcast, the news released that he's looking at sussing out playing rugby next year, especially if they have to be positioned over there. Which since he's put some water over that fire.
Quiet about that, wouldn't he? He wouldn't talk too much about that.
Nah, I don't think he'd say too much about that, to be honest. But I think I brought it up on the show before. I think there's multiple boys that if they have to go over to Australia again and they can't get their families in, or if their families don't want to go, then they will look at other options. And rugby union would be, equivalent, isn't it? You're New Zealand rugby. So, and I'm not saying Roger could make it easy. I think you speak to the players in the All Blacks that played with him when he was younger, he could transition. But I just think that if they do go to Australia again, I don't think it will be him, and I don't think there'll be about 4 or 5 players that I don't think will play. So, but that's just my opinion, and it would all depend on whether they can get their family across, where their family wants to go, and things like that. So it's still a lot in the air.
I wonder what Roger Tuivasa-Sheck thinks of Nathan Brown. And I'm also curious, I wonder if anyone approached the Warriors captain and the club captain as to the purchase of this coach. I wonder if that takes place, or do you just buy the coach because we've looked for a coach and then you say to the captain, here's your coach, you'll have him for a couple of years. I wonder if there was a connection made. I wonder if there was any discussion with the captain, or if that is ignored altogether. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
I've often had this discussion in and around the use of Roger, for recruitment and even team selections. I guess when you're looking at things and measuring them, Richie, you wouldn't put a guy on an All Black jersey. You wouldn't put a guy on an All Black jersey without talking to Richie and saying, "Hey man, you think this guy's good enough to be in your team because you're running it." So on and so on. So you've got benchmarking opportunities here to use Roger. The whole conversation about him coming out is it's unprecedented times. Like, what's to say that the competition doesn't move to New Zealand next year?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Like Melbourne borders are closed. Sydney, they're getting it coming in through the Sydney borders. They're talking about the Brisbane state being closed off to that New South Wales borderline. What say it all blows up over there and they move the whole comp to New Zealand? You know what I mean?
They never do that.
See, it's so unprecedented that you just don't know what's around the corner. And of course the media love the stories to be out there, like we had the Vodafone one this morning. What about Paul Nathaniel Roach? You know what I mean? Playing 23 games over the last 4 years, can't get a start for the Warriors and has obviously been told to move on. There's a lot of that stuff's going to be happening. But again, when you're looking at Roger and the pay packet that he demands, to come back to New Zealand and play in this rugby cup that they've got going on at the moment, he's going to have to take a significant pay cut. Guarantee you. You know what I mean? So there is no All Black games going on, and how they structure the All Black contracts is that you're playing NBC into Super 15 into the All Blacks. Even that's unprecedented. How do they determine what players are earning? Whereas Rogers already knows what he's earning for the next 2 or 3 years. It's a huge decision for him to be making. I'm not going to play anymore. Or does he go, well, I want out, as we know what contracts are like, and he moves back to Sydney City?
I didn't like that last one you just said. I didn't much like it at all. But interesting that you did bring up the fact that the Vodafone story, because I saw that last night. I noticed it when Cameron George wrote on his thing how gutting it is to know that after what all the boys have been through, that now this sort of is thrown in their face. I get the feeling, though, that it's been a pee under the mattress. Is it Princess and the Pea? A pee under the mattress for Telstra that they've felt for many, many years now, and this is finally the go time. It's like, you know what? You can't have Vodafone, which is in direct competition to us over here when we run the show here at Telstra. The timing is just really shit.
It's the timing, Mark, that has annoyed me, because obviously this has been an issue since 2015. Well, the Vodafone have been with the Warriors for 2 decades, 22 years, but this has been an issue for Telstra since 2015. So we're talking 6 years ago when it was first touted, and apparently the NRL has been in discussion with the Warriors saying, you fellas can't keep having them as your naming rights. You need to change them as your naming rights. You can't. But, nothing was put on paper and nothing had been mentioned before now. I don't think the Warriors seem as upset as what I am about it, but I just think it's crap timing. Half the time you've got most of the commentators talking about the sacrifices that they've made to be playing overseas and leaving their family, but they're only going to win 4 games. And the other commentators are saying, gee, they're great. Oh, you know what? Let's give them all home games next year. Let's let them play all at home next year, but let's take $1 million out of their sponsorship because we don't want Vodafone on there. I just think it's really poor timing in terms of the NRL. And what Tony said before about the competition coming here, they will never let it happen. This is an Australian competition, and the Warriors have always been the poor cousins of the competition. Always have been and always will be until we cement a top 8 over and over and over and win 2 or 3 premierships in a row. And until that happens, the Australians will always have that conceited view of the Warriors and the Warriors fans and the Warriors broadcasters, and they will never let the competition come over here. And in a way, they want the Warriors to feel like you're bloody lucky for being here in the first place. And there's only one way to shut them up, and that's to win a premiership. I'm a bit pissed off at this last thing. I really am. And I know people are saying, they'll probably get $1 million through the TV rights or they'll find it somewhere else. It's the dictatorship of it. It's the NRL saying, time's up, 5 years is up, We don't care if you're in our country or not. We actually don't really care about you that much at all. We're going to pretend to because you guys have given up so much. But you're only meant to win 4 games. What? You've won 6. What? You're going to win 8. You're not going to make it into the top 8. I'm really peeved at this one. I'm not happy about it at all.
It's the last time you teed into someone, Daddy Cheerins, he went out got play the day. I'm going to go buy some Vodafone shoes. Probably going to go through the roof.
I'm pulling Vodafone out of my house. If I'm out, it's because I no longer have broadband. All right.
All right.
I start crackling.
No, don't get too crazy.
I think you've got to go back to those unprecedented times. You know, like forget about Vodafone. But I guess for me, the story around the effect on the game financially really revolves around the Brisbane Broncos at the moment and what happened over sort of the last couple of weeks with Alfie Langer being snuck into the back of the Caxton pub, all the players finding themselves in a pub playing pokies and breaking their bubble. And what that actually means holistically to the game, you know what I mean? When you've got a guy like Volandis is up for media rights trying to negotiate a way forward for everybody in these unprecedented times. And I think what you're seeing is residue from that with the Warriors is a conversation that's probably been happening for a long time, like Lavina's pointed out. And now there's really no other choice to say, hey, who's really holding the cards here? Who's got the ace and king and who's got the pair of threes? You know what I mean? And I think the Warriors are holding a pair of threes and Telstra have really put their weight behind a payment to the NRL saying, well, this going forward is a bit of unknown, but if you want our money, then here's the I guess the criteria around getting that money off it. And we being Telstra don't have anything to do with Vodafone. And part of me says that the Warriors are probably in a stronger negotiating position because of that, with the media rights being a part of the equation. So, you know, they could probably, you know, I wouldn't be surprised with Cameron George saying we want more games on a certain day because we'll get a better following, we'll get, you know, bigger uptake in viewership. It allows us to bring in extra sponsors and so forth. They'll be doing the numbers all around that. And he'll retain the $1 million in another sense. But at the moment, it's Vodafone been there for 22 years, being kicked out the back door. I don't think that's the full story. I think that's a media headline. I think this has actually been going on for quite a while, and it's part of the bigger picture that Volandis is dealing with, you know, the Telstras and the media rights moving on.
Yeah, we spoke about it. I just think there's something, like you said, there's something more to it. I think there would have been a lot more hoo-ha, a lot more of a shitstorm if the Warriors aren't getting something, or, you know, to lose $1 million and a major sponsor for years. We've known them as the Vodafone Warriors. I just think there would have been a bit more of a blow up from the Warriors side if there wasn't some sort of compensation or something coming. So, and I agree with you, Lavina, the timing awful. And we've said that about so many things this year. You know, almost everything that's happened this year, the timing's been awful. But yeah, I just think there's more to the story that they're not letting out. And I'm just going to hold judgment and just wait and see what comes of it.
It's one of the greatest all-time ambushes, though, right? Like, Telstra obviously put a lot of money into the NRL being the overall sponsor, and then having this niggly, somehow, they're not the New Zealand Warriors anymore. They have been the Vodafone Warriors, and the commentators all say it on national broadcasts. Like, it just must sting Telstra every time they know that the Warriors are playing, because they've got the massive Vodafone logo up on the jerseys, and it's just their fault. You know what I mean? It's just been that way. And I don't know any other team in the world that has taken on their naming sponsor so well.
Why now?
Yeah, and what now's the... Yeah.
Why not at the end of the season, or why not in a transitional period before all the jerseys get printed for the Warriors to make money on? Or, you know, why not 3 years ago, 2 years after that Telstra said we want to be major sponsors? It's just poor timing.
I'll tell you why it's now. I'll tell you why it's now, and it leads into what Aish had written down in our WhatsApp group as to what he wanted to talk about. It's now because no other team will win the grand final unless they're in the top 4. Aish, yours please.
Take it away, Aish.
I just think that the top 4 are above everyone else. I think the Kemp, I know you're shaking your head, you like the Knights, but I think we're seeing the grand final on Thursday night. The Storm and the Roosters. I think that the Roosters, I looked at their injury list.
It's massive.
and they're getting a couple back this week. Kiri's only out for 2 weeks. Like, they will be there in the end, and they will have close to a full complement in their team, full starting lineup. I think the Storm, every year I say, okay, this is the year the Storm are gone, and somehow they're up there, and near the end they're there. Parramatta, I think you need to go through a bit of a lose a couple of games, and I think Parramatta have done that, and I think they're going to go up towards the semis, and I think we might see Penrith lose a couple before the semis and head in. I just reckon no one outside the top 4 will win the comp. I know Kempy, you love Newcastle. I just think their backline, their centres and things aren't up to scratch compared to the top 4. I think I don't have any faith in the Raiders at all.
Oh, come on now.
So I've said that before.
Now.
You said they wouldn't make the 8.
I said 4. They would make the 4. I used to support the Raiders as a kid, but I had no faith in
I
them
remember. I remember you saying that.
And I just think 7th and 8th are just there to make up numbers. I just think the top 4's one of those people in the top 4 right now this week will be the grand final winner.
Yeah, that's the way it's shown up as well over the years, hasn't it? Really, not even in these unprecedented times, but you almost, that top 8 you hope to get into, but it's always been one of those top 4 that ends up winning the premiership. Hey, Tony, unless obviously you're a Newcastle Knights fan.
Look, I don't disagree with Ace. I'm shaking my head here because we spoke about that right in the front end of the year, that it's not about making the top 8, it's about making the top 4. Every team strives to make the top 4 because it sets them up, and the competition structure hasn't been won outside the top 4. So yeah, he brings a lot of punch behind his comments tonight, Aish. At the moment, I think with the rules and the injuries, I actually think it's a top 6. I think the top 6 teams have a shot, not the top 4. I think, given a take another couple of key losses to some of the players in the top 4, it actually brings everyone back. And if you're looking at Sydney City, for instance, if they lose, let's just say they lose another half. You know what I mean? Like I know they've got great depth, but they haven't got, they're not undefeated.
Or another forward even. Yeah, Warrior Hargreaves now.
Yeah, and Melbourne are the same. Like I watched them play last week, and geez, I just couldn't believe how big they were. But just imagine if they lost their size. So they lose a couple of big blokes in the middle, and they become just another run-of-the-mill, side. Because those two, Tino and the big boy from Upper Hutt, Solomona, you know what I mean? They change the game when they come on the football field because they're running over the top of blokes because they're tired. What about Paul Orbison there with a broken wrist?
Yeah, Mitch Orbison's a big loss. Yeah, he's a massive loss. He's a massive loss for the Roosters.
And my point being, I just think that it opens it up a little bit more this year, given those rules and the injuries that are coming on. Part of me would like Newcastle to be there in the grand final. I think they're still an outside chance, but I do agree with you, Ace. I do think those two teams at the top there are going to be hard to beat.
I think also when we're talking about injuries, and we spoke about the Roosters injury list, they've got that many players to come back into that team. And you think about, I know it's only a shorter season, but there are no buys, things like that. And it's the footy is a lot faster. It's great footy, the speed, everything's faster. So I think these weeks off as well, even though they are injured, it'll just let every other little bit of the body, heal up. And I reckon when they come back in, it might take a week. But that second and third week, you'll start to see. Same as Cameron Smith, mate. Cameron Smith, Munster, as soon as they come back in that team, they're off.
Yeah, you've got no argument with me on that. I just think the timing of injuries sometimes plays into the hands of the club if they can get them back on the football field at the right time of the year. And given that there's no buys in that, imagine Cameron Smith at the moment, mate. He'd be sitting back with a cigar and his slippers on, resting that old 40-year-old body. You know what I mean? And just loving it.
37.
So he's 37. Geez, he's got a Tongan passport.
Kempy, is it absolute convenience that, in fact, the Knights sit in 6th place as to why you've extended in the top 4 down to the top 6? Just, a friend asked me to ask.
Seriously, I haven't had a look at it.
The table's tattooed on your back. It gets changed every week.
I tell you what, Blake Green, it's hard to believe anyone could do this for Kalen Ponga because he's been in outstanding form all year, but Blake Green has helped improve his game. He really has, with his distribution and his reading of the play and his impeccable kicking. I mean, I wouldn't think, because we've all talked about Pearce and Ponga, but Blake Green's been a phenomenal addition to that Knights team. And if they are in the finals at the end of the year, they can thank the ex-Warrior for that, I do believe, because they went through a shaky patch before he came on board and they're just starting to hit their straps again. And I'm sure it's got a lot to do with him.
And I'll also tell you who the best player, in my opinion, for the Knights has been this year, Kurt Mann.
Yeah.
He's played, I did not think it like at the start of the year, I thought, okay, the 6, but he's been one of their best. And to just fill straight into that 9 position like it's nothing and be good at it, mate, he's like, now they've got an actual spine that every position is very good.
Cemented.
Yeah. It's got a beautiful balance to it, and that's why I think they'll be in the there or thereabouts, boys. You know what I mean?
Well, no, you didn't say there or thereabouts. You said they'd be marching their way into the grand final. No, in all honesty...
Is the season over yet?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
There's no fat ladies singing.
You can have a crack at me like all your mates on your own threads. You can, that you're all talking about me. You can have a crack at me when the season's over, mate.
No. I'm asking in all seriousness though. Do you see them marching their way into the grand final, or is that like just the pride and power thing?
No. There's a lot of pride behind that club, but I think balance-wise, and I hear what Blake's saying and around the edges that they haven't got you got Stafford on the wing this week as a kid that's just come through. You got the young centres, that he just doesn't think there's enough stability around them there. But I think in everywhere else on the park, from the edge back rows to the middle players and their spine, mate, they're up there with the top of the top clubs. And given if they can stick there in around 6th position, given the context of the way that the competition's run and the change of the rules, I think they're a chance. I seriously do.
I like that. I mean, there's some reasoning behind it. It's not just blind faith.
Give every team a chance.
Yeah.
Give every team a
every
chance.
team's got a chance.
They're not going to make it through to the grand final like the Eels are. The Eels will make it through to the grand final, not the Knights. There you go. There, said out loud and proud.
There we go. We got another expensive bottle of red in between on this.
Are the Tigers and the Warriors a chance at all?
No, not the Tigers. Not the Tigers, Blake. No, you can't even keep your captain at the moment. I heard you're trying to get rid of Moses. Are you trying to get rid of Moses Hembo?
Probably. We'll finish 9th again.
You'll be lucky to finish 9th when you just scrape past the Bulldogs, who we get this weekend, which should be we should be lumping them. Hey, I wanted to talk about a certain biting incident. If you didn't see it, Proctor decides to have a nibble on Shaun Johnson's arm. Now, I've got 2 things to say about this. One, when you're having a play fight with your brother when you were younger, and he got his arm too close to your mouth, and you gave it a little nibble. You do it to certain people. Kiwi teammates, blah, 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 blah. And secondly, who the fuck outruled biting and fighting? Like, who decided that shit? Like, this is what annoys me. From years ago, someone decided, you know what? We can punch each other with these big things and smash people's heads. We can kick. But you know what? This thing here, which is actually most animals do use when they're being attacked, when they're attacking things, why is it that we're not allowed to bite? Like, who made that rule up and said, no, we can't bite?
Well, Mike Tyson didn't make it up when he took off Evander Holyfield's ear.
No. So it had already been made up before then. But why? You think of every other animal on this earth. One of the first things they do is go for a bite. They don't use this and go like that. So why can't we bite?
Okay, look, just really quickly, I'm not sure if you know, Mark, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? An international pandemic. And I'm not sure if you've heard, but it can be spread through droplets through the mouth. So in terms of hygiene, it's not the most appropriate way to play rugby league or have a fight. I get you with the whole, we bash the shit out of each other, but we don't take bites out of each other. But I'm kind of glad that it's not a part of the game of rugby league. I've listened to a lot of experts over the last few days when it came to Kevin Proctor and Shaun Johnson. And when I was watching that game live, I actually looked at the reaction from Shaun Johnson first before I knew anything had happened. And I saw him calling at the ref and lifting up his arm like he bit me. And from then on, it obviously went into the slow-mo pictures, and then it went into the still shots. And Peter Sterling, the greatest halfback ever lived, came out yesterday and he was supporting Kevin Proctor. And I see in the Sydney Morning Herald this morning, Shaun Johnson is actually going to write a letter in support of Kevin Proctor not being suspended for 8 weeks. So I think it's a bit too late. And for me personally, when my kids were younger and they did tackle each other and there was a bite involved, that was a really naughty thing to do, Mark, really naughty. And I didn't like seeing Kevin Proctor do that to Sean Johnson. I don't know if he reached to bite him or if it's the fact that Sean Johnson's arm was there, but if there's a red mark on your arm because it came from an opposition's mouth, just ask James Graham in the grand final when he had a little nibble on Billy Slater's ear, which was Evander Holyfield as well. There's no room in the game for it. I don't think Proctor's done his playing career anything better than when he had a night out with one of the Bromwich boys, to be fair, and he's still trying to get over that reputation. So he might have some downtime to increase his social life and spend a little bit less time out on the pitch, because I think it was a dirty move and I don't like it, and I don't care if he's the captain or not. I wouldn't care if I didn't see him playing rugby league for the rest of the season for the Titans or for the Kiwis either.
I'm going to. There's some unspoken rules in rugby league fighting. One of them is no biting, no kicking people in the head, no eye gouging. So they're unspoken rules. Back in my day, you wouldn't have done that sort of thing. But I think what this opens up is it open and you know, these guys that change the rules this year in and around speeding the game up. I think it opens up an actual insight into what is actually wrong with some of the problems in and around the grappling tactics in the NRL. Now, if someone's got my head and twisting my head off and my mouth is on his arm and I'm thinking I'm going to break my neck, I'm going to bite him. I'm telling you, like I can't do anything if I've got two other guys on my arms and if someone's got my head and they're screwing my head off. You know, they call them the chicken wing. I know blokes that used to use their knees and calves and all the you know, underlying shit plays, grubby plays that blokes do now because of this grappling style of defence. I think the bigger issue here is not Kevin Proctor having to have a little nibble. He had his mouth guard and so it wasn't going to hurt him anyway. But more around, what are they going to do to stop all this grubby type wrestling tactics that are in the game that are actually really hurting people?
Chuck the Melbourne Storm out of the competition because they're the ones that are doing it.
You know what really pisses me off is when you because I reckon there's a real simple way to change this. I reckon they should take the catch out of the defensive structure. So players aren't being taught to tackle; they're being taught to catch players when they're running into the line. So they hit them, they hold them up, they get players in, they wrestle them, screw them. Now, when you're on your own and you've got your arm in a wrong position, man, all sorts of shit can happen there. And I just think that they need. This is not about. Let's go back to the incident and break it down. It's not about that he put his mouth guard and bit him on the arm. It's probably because Kevy was getting his head screwed off and he had nothing else to do. That's it. Hey man, I'm just going to give you a little nibble here to stop it because it's, you know.
You're opening a massive can of worms there, Tony. Honestly, every single time someone gets a grapple tackle or a chicken wing or gets twisted, or maybe I don't like the way you went, you're going to bite someone. No way, man. No room for it.
I reckon a real simple thing here, and it is a shit part of our game. I'm telling you right now. You know, make them tackle properly as opposed to catching players and wrestling the shit out of them. Like, get that out of the game. Whoever brought that into the game has ruined a big part of what the game was all about. And I just think the Kevy, like, frustration eventually is going to what do you think Mitch Orbison would have done if he could have done something about getting his arm out so he didn't break his wrist? He would have done anything. You know what I mean?
So, when was the last time you bit someone?
Your Honour, and people of the jury, I'd like to discuss why this man is not guilty.
Oh.
So, as athletes, do we close our mouths? You know, we've all played a sport. Do we run? Do we breathe out of just our nose, or is our mouth open at times? Our mouth is open at times.
Correct.
When we bite, whether it be food, if it was an arm, we do a chewing motion. There was no chewing motion. You can freeze it down, just like if you freeze a slow-mo and a still shot of a try, he could have lost it, but at one point had his hand on the ball. They're not giving that a no try. You can freeze it on when Sean Johnson's arm was in his mouth, and you could say he bit him. But then I get to this point. I thought, am I going crazy? Because everyone's saying he bit him, and I just can't see it. So what I did is I put a mouthguard in my mouth, put my arm to my mouth, and I had a bite mark at the bottom where I had pressed my forearm against my mouth. So back to Kempy's point, if Sean did not have his arm in there forcefully on his mouth, there would be no bite mark. And also Sean reacted with his face.
Disagree.
He did not pull his arm away and look at it and say, look, he's bit me. Like if you get bit, you're reacting a bit differently and pulling your arm away. There was none of
let me
that.
ask you one quick question, a really quick one, and it's coming to you. Let's go to last year. Let's say you're playing a game for the Warriors and you're playing against the Titans, and Chanel Harris-Tavita is on for maybe his third or fourth game in the NRL, and he's playing, and he makes a fantastic tackle because Shitty made a good tackle last weekend. Eh?
Woo!
It was an amazing tackle on the Panthers, tackle of the round, and I talked it up. I thought it was amazing. Let's say Chanel takes down Kevin Proctor, who's an amazing athlete and can run and big and strong, and he takes him down and he grapples him and he's getting the cheers from the crowd, and you're watching your young buddy there and he's got his arm around him, and Proctor takes a chunk from his arm. How do you feel about it? Let's take the player out of it and put your teammate in there. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, but I'm filthy if I'm on the field and reacting to it. Like I'm running in where everyone's running in. But like I just said, there was no biting motion. And like I said, I did the mouth guard, put my arm to it, and you could see there was a bite mark there, bite mark, teeth mark, because Sean Johnson forcefully put his hand around his mouth. And that goes back to the wrestle rule Kempy was talking about. So like for me to be a player, if it was to happen on the field, I would have reacted like that. I would have been running. If I got bitten, I would have reacted differently to Sean. I probably would have done something.
Mate, you would have topped him. You would have gone in hundies.
I probably would have.
I hope it doesn't happen to one of my kids. I hope that doesn't happen to one of my kids.
I'm not condoning biting. Like I reckon if he did bite him, yeah, sweet. But I don't think he did. I don't think there's a biting motion. I think Sean Johnson put his arm there and didn't pull it away fast enough. And like I said, the evidence is there with the mouth guard and my teeth.
He did it himself.
Rest my case, Your Honour.
I think
Rest your case.
I think Sean's actually answered Blake too, by putting a support letter in. Like, you don't say, hey, you bit me, and then write a letter and say, no, you didn't. You know what I mean? Like,
what does it say about Henry Perinara now? What does it say about the send-off then?
Well, Henry didn't send him off. It's come out that the bunker told Henry to send him off.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just think that, like I said, it's a wider issue in and around some of these contentious positions that players are getting in. Like we had Alex McKinnon break his neck in a tackle. We've had numerous players dislocate their arms, hurt their necks because of a crusher tackle and stuff. That if you take it right back to the action is this catch. They're teaching players to catch people. So catch them, keep them upright, and work them until you're in a dominant position in the tackle. They've got to remove that. They've got to remove it. Remove it, make the player who's carrying the ball fight to get the ground, and if you lose the ground, you lost the ground. You can't catch them. And I would just simply ban it, outlaw it. As soon as a catch come in, I'll penalise them. Get it out. If you want to tackle, use your shoulders, get your arms
The Melbourne
wrapped
Storm
around
will
it.
never make a tackle. That's all they do. That's all. They were taught to slow the play down. That's what they were taught 12 years ago.
I like
That's
this,
what
Tony.
they've been doing.
You've given us a great the standpoint. You've said, well, here's how we can change it so it doesn't happen again. Aish, you've gone for the record that didn't happen at all. Lavina's gone, I would not like my kids do it. My whole thing is, we've got a couple of referendums already in place for the New Zealand election. We can choose, a party, choose ourselves a prime minister. There's the euthanasia referendum. We've got the marijuana legalisation.
Marijuana.
Yep. And now the right to bite. That's where I think we should go with it. I think we should bring biting back, and then we don't have this problem.
I'm going to wear my T-shirt next week. Right to bite with a big cross over it.
The right to bite.
Right to bite.
My
right to bite.
Mate, introduce me to the person.
You know what also is funny? That if there is all the evidence against you, why would you try and fight it unless you believe that you did not bite him? Like, he's come out and said there's no way that I bit him. I did not bite him. Like, you're not going to fight that if there is that much evidence that you bit him.
It's cute,
No,
Blake.
no,
You're
and
still
you
arguing it.
believe.
It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter because we've fixed
You're
it.
cute.
We've fixed it.
You're cute,
rest
mate.
my
Go to
case.
law school. Go to law school. You're good.
I think I just passed law school.
You did, mate. You did well. That's impressive.
I think what Sean's done too is Sean's realised that, these type of decisions that you make especially against players that you've played with in a national team and become very good friends with, change the way people look at you. I mean, like, change the way everyone that's standing next to Kevy looks at Sean.
True.
You know, because I don't know if you've heard the audio on field, but Kevy's denying it through his teeth, mate. You know, I didn't bite you, and he said, you did. You know what I mean? So, but what it does is that if fair dinkum, if he's gone and bit me and I've got teeth marks on him and gone, well, have a look at that, mate. There's teeth marks. You bit me. Everyone goes, mate, you bit him. But like I said, he can't show that he's bit him. And what everyone else is standing next to Ace is going, well, mate, I thought we were mates. You don't go and do that to a mate. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as if he's done it to, let's say, Mitchell Moses. You know what I mean? He's actually done it to a mate. They played in the New Zealand team together. And if I was standing next to Kevy, I'd be going, oh, mate, it's not a good act. You know what I mean? So I think that's playing on his mind as well.
He had his mouth around his arm, Tony. You can't deny that. His mouth was around his arm.
Okay.
Or what? I'm not doing anything.
Okay,
you don't chop down on it because it's there.
Let's take it one step back. Why the hell was his arm around his head?
Because your rule hadn't been put in place, and they can wrestle them.
He's his head off.
Yeah,
and let's take it one step back. If every single time an arm was round a player's mouth during, after, or before a tackle in the NRL and it resulted in a bite, that would not be good for the game. That would not be good for the game.
I love it. So, Lavina, as you fire up, your camera starts getting even more jerky. You're like, it's like watching a music video. All right, folks, I'm very aware that we need to finish up shortly because, Lavina, you need to be somewhere. So, was there any player of the rounds before I skip into what the fight card looks like this week?
I just quickly again, Harris Tavita's tackle was phenomenal. I loved it. And it was beautiful. And hasn't he bulked up in the off-season? I remember last year he had those little chicken legs and I was worried about him out on the pitch. And I don't know what he's done, but, he might be hanging out in peptide territory.
Hasn't got hair in his eyes.
He's not doing that. He's playing good footy. He looks strong, and I loved seeing that tackle because it shows how much spice and how much guts he has as a player. And moving forward with the Warriors, that's who you need. Someone who's not afraid to make tackles, on the line when it's a close game. When I watched that tackle, I thought, good on you, mate. That was awesome.
I'm gonna raise a player, and we've been talking about it. If you didn't watch the Melbourne game last week and watch Brandon Smith play at dummy half and think that he doesn't cover the Warriors as their marquee player, you got rocks in your head.
Yeah, he played well.
I'm telling you right now. He basically single-handedly guided that team around the pitch to win empathic. Just totally destroyed the other side because he was playing at dummy half.
Yeah, played great.
And I think what Ace said right at the beginning about Melbourne, they're going to be there or thereabouts because Brandon Smith just showed them that if we do lose Cameron Smith, we can still win football games.
They're not going to let him go.
I would be going straight to him now with $1 million and saying, mate,
yeah, it was 900,000 last week.
Home.
And they've listened to your podcast. They've heard you. And they're like, we're not going to let him go.
Home.
They're not going to let him go for 900. It's $1 million now.
Aish, anyone in particular for you, Aish?
Nah, not really, mate. It was around where I don't think a lot of the better teams in the day won. So to me, no one really stood out for me.
Well, looking at the round this week, of course, we're up to round 15, I think, and this is me just putting it out there, the fight of the night has to go to the Eels and Storm on Thursday.
100%.
We're getting the first.
Got to win that.
Yeah.
Got to beat that. After losing to the Dragons, the Eels need to fight back from that one because they needed the 2 points from the Dragons. The Dragons captain played very well as well, I thought, for their coach who was leaving. But, yeah, the Eels need to fight back. That's the one I'm looking forward to most is that match.
Easy as that. That's us. We are done. Anything else in particular? Any other game in particular? I mean, the Warriors taking on the Bulldogs. We'll pump them. Pump them.
Yeah, I like the Rabbits Manly.
Yep, that's a good game.
I thought were very lucky to get away with the game on the weekend. I think Manly, if they win this, they go 2 points within the Rabbits. And I don't think the Rabbits are a top 8 team. So I don't know when Manly get Tommy Turbo. Maybe their 2 front rowers back, but I reckon they could do a number.
That's 9:35 on Saturday.
I reckon the Rabbits are imposters anyway. So
that Cowboys Bunnies game was really good. I loved that 31-30. I think the Cowboys should have won. They played better. They should have won. But Adam Reynolds, mate, that kicking game from him. Some teams that don't have a kicker in it. Whether it be a 1-pointer, a 2-pointer, a grubber kick or bomb. He's amazing. He's always been really good. I don't know if he's the right captain for the club, but He could kick, that kid. He's real good.
Rightio, team. So that was fight card. Fight of the night will be, fight of the round actually will be the Eels versus the Storm. That's 9:50 New Zealand time on Thursday evening. Aish wants you all to watch 9:35 PM's game between the Seagulls and Rabbitohs. That's on Saturday. And then, of course, the Warriors. They won't be called the Vodafone Warriors for much longer, but the Warriors, we playing the Bulldogs 4 PM on Sunday. That's us, team. I hope we all feel like we've had a vent. I feel like we can go into our week now a little more relaxed. And I'm going to find that arsehole who decided biting is no longer allowed, and I'm going to bite his ass. Thank you, team.
Go and buy some Vodafone shares.